Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. Oh, there's a lot going on.
There
How are
is
you
a
doing
lot
today?
going on. I'm doing good, doing well. Let me get your fix there. But we should be good to go. Doing well, doing well. It was a pretty busy day. We got markets making all time highs, and we'll talk a little bit about that, about the markets making all time highs. But it's a pretty good day overall. How was yours, Coach?
I had a real good day. Currencies and interest rates really um, big moves we've been talking about in the dollar. Bonds had a pretty decent move. Overall, I was busy. I can't
Good busy.
complain.
Good busy.
Yeah,
I did see a headline that said the dollar is down, and this was last night. The dollar was down 10% on the year, and it's the
yeah,
worst start to the year it's had in a very long time. I think 2 decades or something like that. So not looking great there, but looking great for those currency trades that you are putting on. Share the screens with you, so you have those, and we'll get right into it. Welcome everyone to At the Buzz, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this session is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. One of the more recent opportunities we've been talking about, and we'll have Coach Paul go through these charts when we get to them, is in the currencies, in the currency market. I have a euro chart up here, continuing the rally to the upside. One of the other ones we've been talking about, and I saw some traders trade, was platinum as well, which is continuing that rally. Uh, you know, Outside markets, we don't hear about them a lot on Topstep TV. We don't see them traded as much, but there is a ton of opportunity going on. Uh, Let us know how you did in the chat today. Were you up on the day? Were you down on the day? Did you take a look at any of these alternative markets and maybe place trades there? Um, Maybe you stayed flat today, and the slowdown summer trading is maybe not your thing. We're kind of slow grounding, but let us know how you did, and we'll get right into the charts. As far as news goes today, we didn't have too much on the planned news side. We did have that GDP number come out, negative 0.5%. Forecast was negative 0.2. Durable goods came in at 16.4. Forecast was 8.5. And we know we have that PCE number coming out. PCE and Michigan sentiment coming out tomorrow. Anything else you have on the news side, Coach?
No, it's funny. Bad news is good news now?
Yeah,
That was the GDP number was pretty
not
disappointing.
good. Yep.
Um, so all-time highs, of course.
Right.
So, well, when I talk the news, that's why when I say I don't pay attention to economic news in my decision making. If my decision making was based on that number, I would have got clobbered short today.
Right.
But Trump signed with China yesterday. Do you see that the headline
Yeah,
just
it
came
just popped up. Signed what exactly? Is the question.
up?
Endorsement deal. What are we signing here? Um, I'm sure we'll see more to come out after that. Maybe it has something
Yeah.
to do with the deal as far as tariffs goes. And if that's the case, we're Trump starting to open up China. Okay, that'll keep coming in as we go. I'll keep financial juice
Yeah.
up on the side. Uh, and we will see how that affects the markets. Speaking of markets, 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. Today to the downside, we had natural gas down 0.98%, soybean meal down 1.2%, and wheat futures down 1.42%. To the upside, we had the Nikkei up 2.14%, copper up 2.67%, platinum continuing this rally. Uh, Platinum is like sprinting a marathon right now. These are the highest prices we've seen in platinum since 2011. 6.22% to the upside. To talk about our big four, we have crude oil up 0.66%, the S&P up 0.75%, gold flat 0.000. Wow, pretty crazy.
Gold platinum spread is back in play.
Yes, it is. And the Nasdaq, our biggest percentage mover in our big four, up 0.92%. I'm gonna pull up a Nasdaq chart, Coach Paul. We look on the daily. We talked about markets making all-time highs, and I want to ask you this a little bit because we do have traders. There's always the argument when we get to all-time highs: is this actually an all-time high? If you look on certain contracts, it's not an all-time high. If you look at the underlying, we did make all-time highs. How do you approach it, Coach Paul? We have to trade the front month contract. We are trading the September contract right now, and we are not at that all time high if we look at this chart here. So, how do you approach that? If I use a back adjusted chart, it does show all time highs. If I look at cash, it shows all time highs. How do you approach this here?
Well, let's go through. You're saying the cash made all-time highs.
Hmm.
Well, the futures are a derivative of the cash.
Correct.
Tail doesn't wag the dog. So for me, it's all-time highs
Hmm.
because of rollover and the effects of the rollover prices. s- You you can have this differential. But the bottom line is it's an all-time high in the cash. And what is our futures contract based on?
The
The
underlying.
cash.
Yep.
So that's the way I look at it. But in day trading, does it really matter?
I don't think so.
So it's not part of my trading plan. It could be all-time highs. It's not in the futures, but it doesn't change the way I trade. Is my bottom line. But it's a lesson that futures are priced with cost of carry. Um, and that's the difference. That's why now we start seeing the difference in a chart that is a continuous chart or just of that month. The longer term charts can affect and will affect over time with a large amount of data. I went through this when I was back testing for 10 years. I came to the conclusion, how can yeah, I would have rather done the cash and made a trade in the futures based on a cash, but that's not available.
Okay.
Then I came down to if it's a day trade or a short-term trade,
Doesn't
it
matter.
really doesn't affect me.
There you go.
Hope hope that makes
There.
sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. If we look and you zoom out and you look at this chart, it is showing that this high is at 22,869 in the Nasdaq. Either way, like Coach Paul said, for a day trade, doesn't matter. This market's going up, right? So, could you look and see what the market's reaction is at that all-time high potentially? Um, the high that's showing on this chart, but either way, this is a market that is in a very strong uptrend. Looking at this daily chart, since April. We've been in this uptrend and continuing it today. Nasdaq trading 22,666 right now. And let's take a look at a shorter term chart, Coach Paul. Looking at last night's open, this is just grinding higher. Again, I want to just put the caution out there that while we were selling off from February through April, talking about buying the market being counter trend and more see profit take profit trades. Uh, Selling this market is exactly that right now. There are a couple opportunities for decent sells. We can see when the New York session started, we did have a nice sell off back to the Globex Open, but the trend is to the upside in this market right now. Now, is it just a blind buy? We've already talked about that a couple of times. You're never just going to blind trade anything, but you got to be a pretty good trader to make money short in this market right now.
Well, yeah, you had a chance in a short-term trade on the opening
Hmm.
of New York on that vicious wick. Um, but it really depends on your style.
Yep.
You know, if you're a scalper, yeah. Um, I'm not. I don't do that well. I just like to go with the trend, but There was a couple places you could sell, and if you're doing a short term, like 1 minute chart, yeah. But as we talked a million times, I think it's easier. You can and a more opportunity to go with the trend, even with scalping. So, but that's your skill. If your skill is in that and you made money today, you have a good skill. If you were selling today, I always say that who's a better trader? If you bought it last night on the opening and rode it, or if you tried selling all day and made a little bit of money.
Yeah, if
That takes
it
skill.
takes skill. It takes skill to sell this and make some money.
I'm not
Definitely
that
does.
skilled, but that's a really good question. And it goes back to as we talk all the time. You have to execute a plan that you can execute that fits your personality. Trying to fill doing someone else's, um, there's obstacles to that. But getting back to that market, I mean, take away the bars or the candles and just look at VWAP. And to me, that just tells you the trend. Um,
Yep.
you know, I mean, what does that say? Now, that fits me, but the trend is definitely up. We've been talking about this, what, for a month now? Is it 6 weeks since April seems like only yesterday.
Yeah, it does. It does. And we're almost 3 months away from it. Yep.
But let's get into today on that opening. It was interesting. Look at the sell volume on the first half an hour and look at the sell volume right on the opening.
So we did have that GDP number come out at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern time. That was right here, and it did present a decent sell. We've talked about doing this a couple of times where, you frame out the news candle, maybe you don't need to guess what the news is going to do. But if you frame out that news candle and attach a VWAP to it, gave you a pretty good short signal. We can see we rejected a couple of times right at that 50%, even on the New York session open. And that's a pretty good trade right there. That's a almost a 100-point move to the downside, about 90 points to the downside. Volume was
Yeah.
selling at that point. Like you said, Coach Ball, that GDP number wasn't good. So taking that short initially looked like a pretty good trade. If we go then to a higher time frame, we go to that half an hour. Uh, then we get to what the trend has been the entire time. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, where if you're over the 200 moving average on either a daily or a 30-minute, you might be ignoring this price action as a short and just looking at it as a better opportunity to buy something. We came down to that 50 moving average on the 30-minute and bounced from there. So again, is there opportunity to make money short? Yeah, you could have made. There was 40 points available to the downside in the Nasdaq before we rallied. That could have been your entire day. Um, but if you're looking to hold on to trades, right? And if we have traders who are saying, how do I hold on to trades longer? You literally can't hold on to a short trade long in this market. It's just not going to pay you well. And we saw within a half an hour that was kind of over and back to the buying program.
Well, yeah. Um, I like we've t- I like this philosophy of when with numbers like GDP or big numbers.
Mhm.
You were right. That was a great sell. Let's look at the 3 minute on that number and
Yep.
analyze it. We had urgency. Once again, it went back to 50%, what, 2, 3 times.
Yeah, gave you a couple times.
Um, and was that a 2-to-1 trade?
Yep. If you risk the high of the number, you did get a 2-to-1 towards these lows.
So, it was a good opportunity. Um, from a technical point of view, from that trading plan point of view. Interestingly, that move we had now let's go to the 8:30 opening, and we had great selling. Look at the volume there.
Yes, we did.
And We had follow through. That wasn't a 2 to 1.
Uh, Depending on where your entry was, so we got to close outside. Let's say we took it here, risk above the high. No, you did not get a 2 to 1. You got a 1 to 1. But 40
Yeah.
points still available. 40 points with a one lot mini. It's $800. With a micro, that's $80. Again, that could be your day, right? Uh, if that's a setup that you take, you don't necessarily have to catch this entire trend for the day. You made 800 or $80, whatever it was, with a one lot in 15 minutes. Who cares what happens for the rest of the day if that's the trade that you're going to take? I think if you continue to sit here and trade, shout out to KJ, number one trader on Topstep leaderboard. I saw him post on Twitter that coming into this summer trading, not sitting at your desk all day is extremely important. If I make 40 points in 15 minutes, I might go outside.
For the rest of the day.
Yeah. Especially to the short side, right? If it's a long trade, different story. But if I made 40 points to the short side in a market that's uptrending for a month and a half, I'm probably going to go outside. Uh, Once we got back, go ahead, coach.
Once we got back, let's go with that. I know where you're going, and I'm gonna give you that lead.
Yeah. Once we got back above that VWAP, though, for the regular trading hour session, we closed above it. That was it for the day. Um, selling was very short lived. VWAP for the entire day session is a bigger yellow line. Really didn't downtick at all on that initial selling for the New York session. And again, we closed above those two, and that was the rest of the selling for the day. A couple of pullbacks to VWAP, healthy pullbacks. Maybe we're looking at these now as opportunities to get into this trend. We kind of hard, right? How do you trade markets that are making all-time highs? Traders ask that all the time. It's hard to buy because it's making new highs. I think let the market lead and then get in on pullbacks, right? Because and you can still lose money in an uptrending market if you just throw trade location to the wind and say it doesn't matter. This is still a 60-point pullback in the Nasdaq, which is $1,200 with a one lot mini, which can get pretty expensive. So trade location still matters. Position sizing relative to your account size still matters. This is a pretty strong trend we have here. Anything else you got, Coach, on the Nasdaq?
Yeah, that was a classic. That was a J trade.
Which one? This one?
Off the opening, yeah. When we
Oh yeah.
closed above that, like you said, and that was now we talked about it's hard the grinding.
Hmm.
There's not much drama because it's normal. That's what it normally does. And I think sometimes, when we get it, we can get addicted to action that we saw in
April.
April, February, and
Yep.
through April.
Yep.
Um, this is a different. It's a different market, um, and you have to check yourself. But this is where patience comes in. Um, this is that it is a slow grind, but heck, when it was volatile, we said this you can't make money in this market. It's too volatile.
Right.
So understanding how you trade, what your plan is, and following that plan, and and understanding that is your focus, and that helps remove a lot of emotion on days like today. Like, this it can't go up. It's so slow. Well, if you're long and it's slow, and you've taken the proper risk. Heck, you don't have to watch it.
Right.
And if we go back to it, I think the more you watch it, it
More anxiety.
leads to anxiety, boredom. I want action. I mean, Vegas and Monaco were built on that.
Mm.
But it was interesting on this grind. There was so much more going on outside of equities. But wow, look at that second one off of VWAP.
Yep.
Is that
Yeah.
I got just was that to the tick, the VWAP?
This one, yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's almost like somebody maybe had a it's an algo buy there, right? Just hey, as soon as we get there, buy it, buy whatever you can.
Well, that's what VWAP is.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's, institutions, it's why it's so important in equities. Institutions execute through VWAP. If you have a couple billion to buy dollars worth to buy of exposure, you're not going to do it in one trade on one day. So yeah, they do. They wait for a look at that line,
Yeah,
and they were ready.
pretty close to it.
That was
Hmm.
another J trade, wasn't it? Well, it
Yes,
wasn't new lows.
wasn't new lows, but failed volume. We closed above it, and the market respects that volume, right? Failed selling. They tried to bring it lower, couldn't, and continued. Janine just said it. Same pattern as always. And I think that's what makes trading difficult, to be honest, because you have to wait for that pattern to play out, and when it does, you got to trust it and let it play. But it is the same pattern. We've been talking about the same patterns. I'm actually looking for new patterns to start talking about on this show, Coach Paul. But we got the same patterns all the time. And by the way, if traders remember, we're going to start doing trades of the day. If you have a trade that you want us to share on air, you had a pretty good trade today. Either put it in the Coach J chat or tag me on Instagram with hashtag at the buzzer. With your trade of the day, we can share it on air, get you some shine on the show. Uh, but yeah, this is just continuing to grind higher. Didn't take out that 22,700 level. I kind of stopped right there towards the end of the day, but yeah, we keep going. Keeps going. Anything else you got in the
Onward.
equities, Coach Paul?
Let's look at Dow and Rusty.
Quick check on the S&P. It did tag 6,200 evens at the end towards the end of the day there. And again, same story, just grinding higher. But we know the Russell a couple weeks ago, Coach Paul, you were saying that if there was a market that needed to play catch up, it was the Russell, still under that 200 daily moving average. Pretty nice day to the upside as well in the Russell. What are we looking at here? 1.64% to the upside in the Russell today. In comparison, the S&P was 0.78%.
So it is starting to catch up.
Yep.
As we well know, the Magnificent Seven still lead the Nasdaq and have a huge effect on the S&P, but not so much in the Russell. It's 2,000 stocks. I
Yeah.
know it's being calibrated.
The weighting.
The weighting, yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to read up more on that. I don't know if that's, but this is a more sedate contract. It has 2,000. It's a broad-based index. I'm kind of suspect on this rally in the S&Ps.
Yeah, you don't trust it?
It's well, I'm questioning it
Okay.
for the fact that it's not a broad-based rally. You know what I mean by that? I mean, it's like equities. It's those 7 equities that are making the biggest difference.
Got you. Okay.
And if anything happens to Tesla again,
Right. Then we're right back to where we came
I
from.
mean,
Got you.
this could be Tesla's recovery that's driving this.
Right.
But a broad-based where equities are all participating in the movement. We're not seeing it with Rusty yet. So I'm very interested in, and I said maybe if it gets over that 200 and they decide that all equities are good, right? Where they, you could see like we talked that catch up.
Yeah.
So I want to keep an eye on that. How about the Dow? It was under.
The Dow was under the 200 daily moving average as well. We are back above it now, closed above it for the first time since the sell-off. First closed above it for the first time since March, uh, early March, and pretty strong. Very far
Yeah,
from all-time highs in the Dow, but
yeah, broke that downtrend line. Yeah, so this is what equities are designed to do. One thing I would suggest is all-time highs. Don't let that affect your decision making. How can I buy all-time highs? What I will say is, think about this. You should be high if you're right, you should be long at all-time highs.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
But either way, don't let it affect the way you trade, because one of the things is the fears. We're and day trading doesn't matter really. You're only there for a short amount of time. If we talk about fading. Well, if you want to fade 5,200, put a VWAP on 5,200 and see how it responds. On
Yeah.
Then you get into the flow.
Coach Paul, let's talk about something here because the Pip Sniper says, "Why you all suck at trading." Oh, who you all is. I like this comment though. Why you all suck at trading is because you focus only on the pattern. Pattern traders win some but lose more. If you manage risk well, then you can continue to gamble your account on patterns. It's not a bad point, right? We talked about even in the Nasdaq there. The pattern is to the upside, but you can lose an account. I love the assumption that everyone in that's here sucks at trading, but you can still lose money if risk isn't managed properly, right? So let's measure some of these pullbacks that we see. Let's say I bought the S&P here, right up here, and it's a market that's going up, and the pattern is saying that it's going up, but there is a 10-point drawdown in the S&P. Uh, and let's say because I am in a brand new XFA and I want to make some money right away, I take it with two contracts and almost immediately see a 10-point drawdown. Uh, I can lose a large percentage of my account being right about where this market is going because I don't get to choose exactly how it gets there. So yes, one, you have to have a pattern. You have to have some type of setup that you're looking for, and it doesn't have to be anything complicated either, right? It could just be, hey, the market's going up, so I'm buying it. But if your risk isn't managed, it doesn't matter what setup you use. And I think to that point, Pip Sniper, you're right. It doesn't matter what setup you use if you don't trade a contract size that your account can facilitate, because these natural fluctuations in the market are either going to scare you from taking the trade that you need to take, or stop you out before because you kind of innately that you need to focus on risk management. But if we're so focused on making money, we neglect the fact that markets just don't go in one direction. Uh, so yes, manage your risk. Most importantly, Andrew said it. Everyone trades patterns. Doesn't matter what you call it. Yeah, pattern could be risk management. Go ahead, coach.
Oh, to execute a plan, you have to have some structure. You have to have a plan. And at the core of that plan is risk management. I know a very successful trader on the floor, very successful. And I was doing a chart. He told me, every ship on the bottom of the ocean has charts in it.
Yep,
I'm like, oh,
that's
wow,
yeah, great
that's a
point.
good point. It ignores all the others that have charts in it that made it following the chart. I'm not. You don't have to. You don't have to use a chart, or you don't have to follow patterns. There was a guy the famous guy in the. I'll have to ask what his name is, that traded pork bellies that had Indian moccasins on, so he could feel the vibration of the pit.
Mm.
But without risk management, no one survives.
Right,
So these absolutes, I don't deal in absolutes. Not everyone here sucks.
not everyone.
Not everyone here is great.
Yeah,
So I would caution on using absolutes. But you're right, risk management, and you
over
don't
everything.
need a chart. You can be one of the rare people.
Yep.
Now, I would, from my experience, people without charts, a large percentage are, are really just dealing with their feelings.
Hmm.
Um, and you can do that, but
Yeah,
you better have risk management. But it's much harder.
Sure.
So let's move on.
Let's move on. Can we talk about Nat Gas wild moves today? We can for Pi. And Paul H. Can someone explain what the University of Michigan sentiment is? It is. It's a survey. It's a survey of consumers, asking them basically their sentiment on a couple of different things. Apparently, if you ask JD, they send you $5 in the mail if you want to take the survey, and you don't even have to fill out the survey. You can keep the $5. But it's a sentiment indicator. Literally, what it says, right? It's surveying consumers on, I think, the price of goods, cost of living, things like that. I don't know it exactly, but it's a sentiment indicator. Uh,
It's a sentiment indicator, and for those of you who are not in the United States, University of Michigan has a pretty big and successful business school, and they came up with this index, and it's supposed to correlate pretty well with the economy.
Correct.
Now, being a Spartan, Michigan State guy, I don't know if I agree with it. No, sincerely, that's what it University of Michigan, and it's been around now for a while. So I guess it has some traction about spotting economic activity. But once again, doesn't ma- I as a day trader, doesn't influence my decision making.
uh, there was a question from Alexi, and Alexi, I answered your question saying that I don't think we have a contract limit. But I do remember now. I think there was a conversation MP was having on air, and I think there is going to be a point where the risk settings allow for you to set how many contracts you're allowed to trade. I think it's on the way. Don't quote me on that. But I feel like I remember hearing that. Let's move over to gold. Take a look at gold on the daily really quick. Pretty indecisive day. Kind of just hanging out here. We closed under the 50 moving average. And we closed under the 50 moving average 2 days ago. We spent 2 days under it, uh, and continue to reject there, Coach Paul. Gold is hanging out, kind of imbalance right now, rejecting off of that 200 moving average, while platinum is running to the moon. What are we looking at
Well,
here in gold?
the flat market. There's up, it's trading both sides, but what's happening again? We're getting compressed. Well, we're under that 50. The 20 hasn't crossed, but it's like with the move in platinum and gold is not responding. I imagine there's some fundamental reason for it. I don't know what that reason is, but here, being under that 15, we're not recovering above the 200. We still don't have a longer term buyers. I still think we're having liquidation of
Yep.
longs. But the yeah, the average true range is coming down. In other words, volatility is coming out of it. But really, to me, I would be buying some volatility because it's not going to stay in this range.
Great point.
My feeling.
Great
I don't
point.
think it's just going to go meandering sideways
No,
nicely.
no. Not after this run that it's been on, not after the volatility that we've seen. It's come down, but average true range on the daily is still above 50, 56 points for the day. We have a couple of consolidated days here, but I don't think it's over yet either. I don't think it's
Is
over.
that a
Go
well?
ahead.
Looking at from there, do we have a big Dorito going on here on the daily?
Let's see. From the all-time high?
Yeah,
Yeah, we do.
yeah.
Yes, we do.
Ooh.
So whatever side
Well,
it decides
they
to
were,
break on, gonna get a pretty good move. But
and that trend line, we're just hanging around. We did this before. Remember this?
mhm.
Let's go back. I think that was in February, where the start of that uptrend line. It looked like it was going to break, hung around the 50, hung around, and then one day it was like 100 higher right there.
Yep. Yeah, did it a couple times. Hung
So,
around here. Yeah, did it a couple times.
jury's still out.
It's hard to say that this rally is over. We asked the same question early May. Said, is the rally in gold over? We didn't make all time highs again, but we did see a push up. So uh,
Yeah.
it's down, but it might not be out. All right. Let's take a look at platinum real quick. Just we'll go metal to metal. And just really quick, platinum. Again, if you're a metals trader and gold isn't really doing it for you, the balance in gold, we're continuing to see platinum rally. Biggest percentage mover on the day to day, up 6%. I think when I checked last night, it was pulling back just a little bit, but these are prices that we have not seen in platinum since 2011, and just continuing to rally. If you look at yesterday's open, really nice move here, high to low. This is about a $6,000 move in platinum on a one lot. Unfortunately, there are no micro platinum contracts that we can trade, but I still think it's a great contract to trade with Top Step accounts. The volatility has definitely increased over the past couple of days. So same thing that we went back to before. Risk management is important. Is this market just a blind buy? No. But as we can see, the pattern kind of holds that somewhere near VWAP, around VWAP. Again, this is not financial advice. Looks like a decent opportunity to take longs. We have the well above the 200, 200 moving average on the 30-minute coach Paul. What's what are we looking at here? Why is this market doing this?
Well, that was yesterday. It's bouncing over it. 20 is above it, but it was last night. I mean, we had urgency.
Mm,
It came in early. Look at that. And that's night volume in platinum.
right.
That was a big buyer. And I think they bought some more.
Yeah, they're continuing to buy it.
I mean, and once again, we talk about, let's just remove the candles. And we know with that, I mean, okay, I'm not even saying it anymore. That's not a pattern. That's evidence.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, it
what
is.
is there to say?
This market is being bought.
One part I will
I
say.
was go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just trying to read some headlines on what's going on. It seems like a supply concerns with platinum, whatever it is. Because
Okay.
anytime you look at a market like this, again, these are prices that we haven't seen in uh, almost 2 decades. It's like, okay, what the hell is happening? And it kind of always just goes back to simple supply and demand. There are supply concerns about platinum. It's used in a bunch of different places. It's being bought, it looks like, in China, and we can see where the volume starts to come in on our charts. But yeah, this is a buyers are in control of this market right now.
And someone said, just to verify this, platinum is $5 a tick.
Yep.
So on $1 move, it's $50, not 500. So we need a $10 move. But
Right.
now the volatility coming in, if you're going to trade that when it's moving $70 in a day, $10, 500, let's say $5 could happen any moment.
Yeah.
And understanding that risk. Um, so just to verify, it's $5 tick, not $50. It's a tick, so $1 is $50 move. But earlier talking about trends. Uh, Trends are patterns,
Yep.
pure and simple. Um, this is in a heavy trend. I don't look myself for places. The only time I'm looking to sell is when I'm long. But I just want to say, who's if you're selling it, you can go ahead. Just realize you have to think at that point. You have to think like a market maker.
Yep.
And maybe that works for you. But as a market maker, they don't give a damn about the trend. They really don't. They can't. They can't worry about that because they have to be there on the bid and offer. This is how it works. Bid, how much the public is conglomerate is willing to pay versus offer, how much there is to sell. And then the other what decides it, and Jay, this goes to you in volume, size.
Yep.
If it's 500 up, well, years ago, if it's 500 up, it's five, six bid for 500 and there's 500 to sell at seven, we have a balanced market. But if there's 500 on the bid and there's 100 on the offer, as a market maker, you need to know that and adjust. You might pull your offer. Like I'm not offered there anymore. I'm offered of another point higher, or I might just offer 50. That's how the auction process works at where the rubber meets the road. Um, that can be reflected in VWAP
Yeah.
over time. But understand you can do that if you're, and those are good tape readers or people who can read the book. But that takes a lot of skill and it takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
And you're working against computers that are quicker than you because if you're when you're doing that short term, remember for all you tech guys out there, pings, how many pings it takes for you to get into and get filled. You're If you're trading a prop firm, you're behind.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, nothing against. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're at the end of the data feed.
so,
Uh,
but that's the basis of how trades get done.
that Coach Paul. Let's take a look at some other markets. Crude oil, balance balancing crude right now after the extreme volatility that we saw a couple of days ago. Kind of setting in balance back into that range that we sat in for a very long time. Kind of hanging out at $65. I don't know if we have too much to talk about in crude right now. Anything you got in crude, Coach, or do we want to check? I want to check natural gas, and I do want to get
Yeah, on
to
the
what was on
daily,
your scouting report.
it's under the 200, and it's flat. Um, this is a huge J trade, right? We're underneath that big volume and we're not recovering.
Right.
Um, Feels very heavy.
Yes, it
We're under
does.
the 20 also. I think we go back to the bottom of the range.
Back down towards those $60
But
potentially.
potentially, um, yeah, there's nothing sexy here.
Not really. Trader did mention natural gas, so let's just go energy to energy. Here is natural gas on the daily. We sat at this 200 moving average for a while, right? That was a support for a pretty long time. It looks like we're finally getting some volume through it. Uh, Natural gas. I have not watched this one in a little bit. Coach Paul, have you been paying attention to natural gas much?
No, I have so much else on. I have not been paying attention to it. It's been behaving like crude.
Yeah,
It's been a wild downside. There we go, right under the 200, the 20 cross. So
This was the opening of the
it was a
week.
nice trade.
We crossed under that 200, and it has been in a
Yep.
downtrend. If you look at this 20 and 50 moving average, those are pretty. We got some distinction between the 20 and the 50, right? They're not wrapped around each other. The 20 is the lower moving average, the yellow one here. It's a pretty nice trend. Every time we come up to this purple line, it is getting rejected. Patterns are patterns until they break. We did have some pretty nice volume at this low here. That was at 10:30. I think we may have had inventories come out, and we closed above this. So, natural gas
With
is a
volume.
market closed above it with volume, right? Natural gas is a market that's been in a downtrend. Um, I'd be curious about this turn here, though, especially with that close above. We saw this, I believe, in gold recently, where we had this high volume reversal, and then gold has continued to bounce off of this level. So the high of this candle is 3,527. So I'd be looking at that price to see whether or not natural gas holds that, and maybe we get a bounce up towards that 200 moving average on the 30-minute up at 3.7. Interesting market,
Yeah.
though.
Coming into a weekend. So we gap lower Sunday, and we've been going ever since.
Yeah.
Um, so it's coming into hurricane season. Anything can happen it can and will happen over the weekend. So I think we can see some short covering versus, you know, value buying.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised, like usually if we get a pop tomorrow. I mean, we have the makings of a J trade with absolutely monstrous selling volume. That lows of the week, lows of the day. Let's keep. No, we'll watch that
That's some of the
tonight.
highest volume we've seen in a couple months in natural gas. So I'll be watching that for sure, keeping that up on the side. But we went through the big four, Coach Paul. Talked about a couple alternative markets. I posted on X that your scouting report is continuing to print, and this is not financial advice, just educate for educational purposes only. But the currency markets, still trading the currency markets. Currency markets are still moving. We had a euro chart up earlier, started the session. Uh, what are we looking at here, Coach Paul?
Well, continuation of a rally. Look at, I think it was what's it, Tuesday when it played with the 200 moving average.
Yep.
Um, Also, notice too when the 20 crosses, but still, the daily, it's above the 200. Once again, I go through this, the half hours above the 200. I find that as a place to lean on. So
Yes.
this is continuation in a trend. I like to find places that I can buy in a trend with low amount of risk. So last night's open, we there is demand. I mean,
There
and
is
a half hour.
right off the open. That was a very small half-hour candle,
Yep.
and we just got going from there.
And then we corrected down to the 50. We could see the 50 cross. I mean, I imagine over the weekend and tomorrow, I'm not going to be aggressive on the buying.
Mm.
Um, Again, it's a Friday. Over the weekend, it would surprise me if we rocketed up. But that was a great trade last night, and it was across currencies. One of the most dramatic was the Canadian dollar.
Oh wow,
And
look at that. Hmm. That is
yeah,
a while we have the equities are rallying right now. These are there's almost less pullback in these currency markets right
yeah,
now.
yeah. There wasn't even, it was more than urgent.
Yeah.
So going back, and I just want to keep this why this the kind of the way the cogs in the engine turn. What do we mean by urgency? So last night on that open, you saw it in the euro currency, and you see it in the Canadian dollar. I'd imagine in the Australian and the Swiss. I didn't look at them. Um, but the Canadian dollar, I love trading the Canadian dollar.
Yeah,
It's it's when it moves so smoothly. It isn't it's like the anti-Nasdaq. Um, but so on that opening, there was, there make market. There wasn't much there, but underlying that market, there were bids. Soon as they started bidding, starting taking out the offer, look what happens to the volume, and then look at the what happens to the price.
yeah,
And the more volume that came in, the higher that price went. Okay, that's flow right there. Can it
100%.
continue? Yeah, if there's variables, something could come out that Canada is now the 51st state. I don't know what can come out, but something can come out. Doesn't because I did just never want to have this thought that this is easy. It's not. But you can find a place that has the makings that you can lean on with reasonable risk and get good risk reward. Um, I just if
I
you
would
look
call
at
this some pretty good risk reward in this. We went with a pattern. The pattern is that urgency trade. I would call this a pretty good risk to reward. You got a 2 to 1 somewhere. You got a 3 to 1 somewhere if you wanted it. Again, don't want to make it
it
seem
was
easy, right? It's very easy in hindsight to say, oh yeah, you just buy it down here. This was still a 16-hour trade to the highs of the day, but in a market that's just continuing to make highs and trend higher in these currency markets, I think the risk is worth it here.
yeah. Now because I've done this a long time, I'm different. I could trade Canadian dollar for 10 years and never see a move like that.
Yeah,
But there's a move like that somewhere once a week. My job is to try and find a good probability to get that.
absolutely.
And like what Billy said yesterday, I was an expert currency trader. I don't trade currencies. I trade futures. To me, I'm looking for movement.
Yep,
Um, as long as I know my risk, I can play it. I don't trade anything but futures.
there
But
you go.
as you said, coach, there's 36 different futures we can trade here at Topstep. Not all of them are busy or offering much opportunity, but um, there's four that do. My job, what I do is find, try and find that. Does it work all the time?
Nothing does.
No.
Nothing
In
does.
fact, I think it works about 50% of the time.
Nothing does. But our job,
But
as we say every show, is to identify opportunity. Opportunity. And I think Coach Paul, you helped identify where some of this opportunity is in these currency markets right now, and then see how you could take advantage of it. Maybe you can't. Maybe as a trader, you don't find a setup here, but I would imagine that you can. Right? I would
well,
say
yeah.
I would say that opportunity is in trending markets, and the equities are providing that right now as well. So if you don't want to jump over to something else while the equities are trying to make all time highs, I get that. But it's out there. It is out there. Why no Dex? Paul H. It's on the roadmap. It just wasn't a product that we traded, but it's on the roadmap. I can't tell you why, fortunately. All right, we got about 30 seconds to go. AKA Ghosty says, any advice on coming up with your own strategy? Uh, Borrow and steal. So come up with something that makes sense to you, right? If you like how you hear someone talk about markets, I would say don't try to copy exactly what they do, because at the end of the day, we can talk about strategy here. We're not going to get in or get out at the same prices, just because we have different risk appetites and budgets. But what you'll hear from myself, what you hear from Coach Paul is that when we assess the markets, when we analyze the markets, it's the same thing every single time. Right. So whoever you watch, whoever you decide to watch, it doesn't have to be us. It could be anyone, any of the guests that we have on Top Step TV. And why I really love Top Step TV, and we said this before, but why I really love Top Step TV is you get a bunch of different perspectives, and no one trades exactly the same way. But what you should hear from most of the guests is that their approach is the same every time. So find something that helps you make sense of what you see in the markets, and then say that these are going to be my rules based on that information, and go from there. Um, and then filter, right? Filter. So if I'm a volume trader, right, and I hear something that, I hear somebody say they trade really well off of moon cycles, and that has nothing to do with volume, then that's probably not information that I'm going to use to build out my strategy. What about you, Coach? Any advice on coming up with a strategy?
Yeah, I don't know what your experience is, but find one. There's many out there, but find a simple one. Average, I mean, the breakout, opening range breakout, or um, a moving average, like we discuss, and real simple rules. If they could, find something, another thing is study 3 or 4 of them. All
Yeah,
right, and under see then see if you can execute them.
that's the biggest part. Strategy that you can execute. Strategy that you can execute is so important. And that goes back to the conversation of who do you have to become to take trades. We have some traders who are scalpers on the leaderboard. We also have traders who are, you know, intraday swing traders and hold trades for 12 hours on the leaderboard. Uh, I would assume that the intraday swing trader can't trade like the scalper, and vice versa. So you really have to find something that resonates with you. Uh, is trying to be someone else is probably not going to work.
And while you're doing that, above the number one is learn. You have to know how volatile it is.
Yep.
What do I mean? You have to learn how m- when your trading strategy, how much you can risk to take the trades in it. Understand that above all else. Wow, Jimmy G. Wells Wilder Moon. I have that book, Delta book. I've had that for decades.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, there was trading wheat on moon cycles, and I know someone who did it and did it well.
Yep.
But he would take hits too, whatever it is. Without risk management,
Doesn't
none
matter.
of them work.
Nothing works. Nothing works. Back to that point that who made that point? The pip sniper. The pip sniper. Without risk management does not matter. You could do it. Literally do whatever one. You could flip a coin. Flip a coin and say, if this is tails, I'm going to short. If you manage your risk, it might be tough in these markets, but manage your risk. That puts a lot in your favor. Anything else you got before we go, Coach Paul? We are at time. Before we go, scouting report still
Just
the currencies.
currencies. I would say this tomorrow. It's Friday.
Hmm.
I think things are going to slow down. I might just I'm hedging my positions. Um, Understand that it's a Friday in front of a weekend, and then we have 4th of July coming. Um, be careful. That's my biggest. I don't have any currencies are still in play, but after today, I don't look for them to do it again. Um, so be careful. Just slow down. If you're starting to get frustrated because there's no movement, or there's nothing wrong with this taking the day off.
On outside.
But yeah, my gut tells me tomorrow, like we just saw it in natural gas. You could see sharp reversals.
Yep.
But if you don't see your setup, don't take it. Focus on your risk management and don't let a bad Friday ruin your weekend.
Don't
And
let it
that's it.
ruin your weekend. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Enjoy doing this as well. It is a job at the end of the day. It is, the potential to gain from it as well. But you should be having, I don't want to say fun. Maybe it's not always fun, but you should be enjoying this process. Even if that means you're losing. If you're learning something and you're working on improvement, um, you know, enjoy the entire process of it, because it'll make when you win feel a lot better. Uh, Thank you everyone for joining. We have Coach Hoop doing a class in a couple minutes here in Discord. Then we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. Coach Dakota with Baron for slow markets tonight at 7:30 Central. Aaron for the London trade. Aaron, the gold trader. I wonder if he looks at any alternative metals while they're while they're rallying the way they are. I'll
He
maybe have
just
to stay up and watch Aaron to see if he can put some platinum trades on. But that is at 1:30 a.m. Central. No Euro trade with D is tomorrow is Friday, and D does not do that session on Friday. I will see everyone for fast markets tomorrow. Trade well, risk, and we will see you all then. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up button on the way out, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Coach.
thank you. Have a
Bye.
good night.